I often feel like inspiration can be found in the most random things in life. I mean, one odd post or comment or quote or event can completely flip the way your brain functions, or at least the way you approach things in life or your perspective about things. And much like that, unsurprisingly, I found some inspiration for today's episode from the one that I did last week. I mean, of course, it's undeniable that most of us spend a significant amount of time scrolling through social media. And for me, it's really interesting to see how, the kind of artistic outputs that we interact with on the internet, how they start bleeding into our real lives and find their place in our personalities, in our thought process, and also in our tastes and preferences. And now that I was thinking about what kind of celebrities, public figures, pages, etc., that I find interesting, any thought or any conversation about influence in the current time cannot possibly avoid mentioning the Kardashians. And yes, before you get all judgy, I know that the name Kardashian or Jenner, let's go with that. I know that this name is loaded. I know that this name, carries a lot of opinions from all kinds of people around the world. And yes, there has been a lot of controversy along the years, but I also feel that there's a lot to learn from them. As I said, inspiration can be found in the most random things in life. And in this case, inspiration can also be found from some of the most loved and hated people on the planet. Now, I'm assuming that you all haven't been living under a rock and you're aware of the Jenners, but let's just do a recap, just for fun. So, needless to say, they're one of the biggest names in the industry, and it's not just one field, it's across fields like TV, film, fashion, business, lifestyle, etc., etc. And when you add their respective significant others in the mix, you drive further into some top names in the fields of sports, music, and the list truly goes on. All in all, it doesn't matter whether you hate them or you love them. I'm sure everyone has something to say about the Jenners. Now, I started watching this show about some 8 years ago, maybe a decade ago. And at that time, that Keeping Up with the Kardashians show, it seemed so insane to me because I was barely a teenager. And of course, these guys hadn't reached their peak at the time. They were still running their store Dash. It was only Kim who was in the fashion industry and, doing ads and doing campaigns, doing cameos in movies and music videos and so on. And at that point, their life, it just seemed so unimaginable to me. Like, the fact that someone made a sex tape that went viral and now they basically just made a career out of being famous for no reason. That was completely insane to me. And to truly make things weirder and more confusing for me, there were the little ones, Kylie and Kendall. And, they seemed like people who were my age because they were also teenagers at the time. So, from a distance, they seemed like people I should be able to relate to. But in reality, their lives were nothing like I could have imagined. And as I kept following the show, I kept learning more and more about the other family members. I mean, for the longest time, I didn't even know that the OG Kardashian sisters, Kim, Courtney, and Chloe, they even had a brother. Like, I did not know about Robert Kardashian's or Rob Kardashian's existence for the longest time, which was really embarrassing for me because at that time I felt like, oh, I have researched about this and like, I'm so up to date about the Kardashians. It just seems so stupid. Like, how could I not know that they also had a brother who was also regularly on the show at that time? And like, despite the criticism and all the kinds of negativity that followed that show, I have to say that it truly did the one main thing that it was meant to do, and that was entertain. Now, there have been some really interesting, controversial moments across the last couple decades. They've been here for a long, long time. And other than the controversial aspects of the show, I feel that when you stick to something for so long, like, when you go through all of those seasons and episodes week after week after week, you kind of get hooked and you kind of, start rooting for the characters. And especially when it's a reality TV show and when it's real people. So it's very easy for you to kind of get involved with their lives and also kind of get affected in the process. Like for me, some really emotionally heavy moments were when certain unfortunate events happened in their lives, such as Tristan cheating on Chloe or Kim and Kanye and their whole roller coaster relationship, the divorce, and all of that nonsense when Kanye lost his shit. Then there was Courtney ending her relationship with Scott. That was such an emotional moment for me because, they had three kids. They were together for about 10 years, I think, but they never got married. So that was a moment when she finally decided to end things with him. And on a lighter, funnier note, there were always iconic lines and moments from the show. I think my favorite one would be when they were on a family trip and Kim had her "I lost my diamond earring in the ocean" moment, and Courtney just goes like, "Kim, there's people in Africa that are dying." Killed me. Killed me. I think I watched that particular scene some 5,000 times. It's hilarious. And say what you want about them, their personal lives, and their show. I think I have some very specific takeaways, some very specific learnings that I've had from every individual character, and especially the women in their family. I think I'll just start with the head, the boss, the mom, Kris Jenner. I think she's a genius. In simple words, I think she is a fucking genius. And these are not my words. I saw it in some post somewhere, but it makes complete sense that it takes another level of genius and intelligence to market your kids that basically do not have any actual tangible talents to make them into millionaires and billionaires. It's a whole other skill. And trust me, I said this years ago, even before this was a thing. I said this, I think 5 years ago when I was in college. I said this to one of my friends that Kris Jenner should become like a business guru or a marketing guru or something because no one does it like her. And a few years later, not surprisingly, she started taking this masterclass on, I think, business and marketing only. And it just fits. There's no one like her. And I think the biggest lesson that I had from her is that you prioritize, you keep your goals, your priorities straight. To make anything work in life, it's going to take sacrifice, it's going to take a lot of hard work. So, when you keep your priorities in check, it just makes that process that much easier because then you know what comes first, what comes second, and so on. So, you can't get those things confused. That if family comes first, then family comes first. There is no argument. And that is one life lesson that I feel that she is very beautifully transferred to the rest of her family. That for them, family comes first. It doesn't matter where they are in the world, what they're doing, who they're with, they're always in touch. For them to be so closely knit as a huge mixed family, I think it's truly inspirational. It's actually very beautiful, especially now that they're all married. Like most of them are married and have kids and everything. So so that's just beautiful for Chris to have her priorities sorted out and at the same time have a massive career managing her kids. It's really that simple. She had her priorities straight. She works with her kids, she manages them, she makes 10%. She's good, she's set. Next, we come to the firstborn Kardashian, who is Courtney, the eldest of all sisters. And simply on the principle of being an elder sister, I feel like she's the one I could probably relate to the most. And she's also had her ups and downs in life. But the one thing that I love about her, and the one thing that she actually gave me in my life, was the faith in second chances. I mean, the woman spent such a long time, so many years, with a man who could not completely commit to her. She even had his kids. She basically was his family, his entire family for such a long time. But because, she wasn't sure, she couldn't fully commit. But after all of that, she now finally has a man who worships her, who treats her like she should be treated. And I think they make a wonderfully blended family. It's really lovely to see her with Travis Barker now. It truly makes me happy because for so many years, I just sat in front of the screen yelling at her, "You woman, what are you doing?" And I'm sure when Scott and Courtney broke up at that time, it didn't feel like, oh, there was such a bright future. But look at her now. She's so happy. She is about to welcome a baby. I think it's lovely. Moving on to the star of the show, Kim Kardashian. She is probably the one that you think of when you hear the name Kardashian, because why wouldn't you? She basically started this whole brand. And I know this was Courtney's dialogue that I basically started this whole family, but I'm sorry to burst your bubble, Courtney. It was Kim. She started it, she was the star, and she still is the star. And the most interesting thing about her, or I think more than interesting, the most endearing thing about Kim is that she has an ass that won't quit. And of course, because it's Kim, I had to make an ass joke. But she really doesn't quit. She's over 40 and she's still in the game. She's still making appearances. She's still probably one of the top people in her field. Now she's expanded her businesses. She's a whole brand. And it's truly no surprise that she's a fucking billionaire, because if there's anyone in their entire family who deserves to be a billionaire, it's her. Because I can't imagine the kind of shit that she must have heard and seen and experienced simply because she is famous because of how she looks. And to make her more interesting, there's the whole spin in the story where she decided to go to law school at, I think, in her late 30s after having, what, four kids? It's insane. And my biggest takeaway from her life is resilience. Truly, truly one of the most resilient public figures that I've seen, because I'm sure that she gets so much hate on a regular basis, but she doesn't let it get to her, or at least, she knows how to work her way through it. Of course, there have been many moments, and they've actually been really public about many important moments in their life. So, especially when she had kids and things from her past started coming up, and that started threatening the safety and, just like emotional and mental security of their kids, especially when people started bringing up her sex tape and her past husbands and past relationships, whatever. To stand in the face of all that on a regular basis and continue to do what you love to do and continue to do what you're great at, it takes strength. It takes a lot of strength, and I truly take that resilience and that strength from Kim. Next in line is my favorite Kardashian by far, and that is Chloe. I think she is the most hilarious out of all of them. And she's one of those people who who are really not afraid of being themselves. I just have that feeling. I just sort of know that she is very, very real and sometimes brutal as well, but very real nonetheless. And yes, she also gets a lot of crap. You know, earlier she used to be fat shamed and then she had her whole transformation. Then she was called out for that. I don't know why people can't mind their own business and they really have to comment on everything that a woman chooses to do with her body. But, anyways, my favorite thing about her is that she is true to herself. It doesn't matter what's going on in her life, she is absolutely real. Okay, maybe sometimes, you end up running around in circles with certain things, but who hasn't had that moment in their lives? Who hasn't done that? And on top of everything else, I just have this feeling that her and I would be really good friends. Like, if that were ever to happen, I think out of all the sisters, I would probably get along the most with Chloe simply because she's such a wonderful personality. She is so light. Like, she doesn't seem like a person who comes with a lot of baggage. I'm not saying that she doesn't have baggage, but, you know, she kind of doesn't let that affect her persona, I guess. She's very real and she stays true to herself. And I love that about her and I love that for her. Now I know they have a brother, Rob, but I haven't really thought about him that much or ever actually. So we're just gonna skip him. Sorry, Rob. Not that he cares, but anyways. Next up, we have Kendall, the first of the Jenner kids in the Car Jenner clan. Of course, there are other Jenner kids, but in this family, the first one. And when I look at her and when I hear her talk in interviews or whatever, I just feel like this is a person that I really look up to. This is a person that I would probably aspire to become. And that is not because of her line of work or because she's a fashion model. I mean, not entirely, anyways. But I love the kind of connection that she has with herself. This might be a little contradictory or a little ironic, but she's actually so reserved. Her personality and her personal life is kind of off the spotlight, which is ironic because she is all about the spotlight. She's a model for God's sake. You see her in photo shoots, in ads, in magazines, on the runway, doing all sorts of crazy things, looking stunning. But her personal self is pretty separated, I think, from her public image. And that is one of the things that I find very interesting and fascinating about her. I really appreciate the kind of relationship that she has with her own self and the way she talks about herself, the way she values herself. In addition to that, it's lovely to see the kind of affection that she has for nature and animals, her dogs, her horses. Kendall is a personality that I really look up to. And it's not just because she's a part of this family, but because she really works on herself and she at least attempts to be connected to her inner self and, she protects her peace. I respect that a lot. I need to learn that. And lastly, we come to everyone's favorite, which is Kylie. And I know when someone says Kylie Jenner, you automatically think of her lip injections. But I adore Kylie so much. Out of all the sisters, she's the one who's closest to my age. So for me, she seemed the most relatable one by age, not by anything that she did in her life. And from that King Kylie era on Snapchat and her wide range of wigs and hair colors and everything, to see her transform into a businesswoman, transform into a mother, It was a rather shocking moment for me as a spectator, at least. From seeing her be that cool kid that everyone wanted to be at 16 or 17, especially Coachella Kylie, that was iconic at that time. And in a span of what, 3 years, if I'm not wrong, she went from being King Kylie to being the founder of Kylie Cosmetics, one of the most successful makeup brands in the world, at what, 18? And that rage of a success was shortly followed by her having her first kid. And then in the years that followed, she started even more businesses. She expanded her line and she's still doing such a great job at it, which really makes it easier for me to believe that a mother and a working woman, they really can have it all. Of course, I know these people are millionaires and billionaires and they have all the help that they need. But still, from the looks of it, it doesn't seem impossible. It doesn't seem like a daunting task to be a good mother, spend time with your family, and still have successful businesses and, still also have time for things that you like doing on the side. Maybe not on the side, but just the things that you love. Also, just a little side note that I wanted to add. In my opinion, I think Kylie is the best dressed out of all the sisters. And, if I had the chance to probably raid any one of their closets, for some reason, I just feel like it would be more fun and more interesting to raid Kylie's closet. There are many people on this planet who automatically spew negative comments when they think about anyone out of the Kardashian or Jenner sisters. Of course, there are people who blindly follow these sisters, and most of it is like, brand loyalty, I guess, just because they've been watching their shows and, shopping from their brands. They are really loyal customers. And if I'm being honest, I feel like I really belong to one of the loyal customers because I have followed their lives for so long. It's kind of unfair for me to stop doing that now. And more importantly, there is no reason for me to stop doing that because they're still at it. They're still doing what they do. They're still out there making appearances, making their show, sharing their lives, still in the public eye. Now, even more so because of social media. And okay, maybe there has been a downfall in the way people accept them or the way people follow them, especially because there has been such a rise of TikTok and Gen Z creators and public figures, which is how things work. But still, these women are so relevant. You can't deny that. You can't deny their presence. You can't deny their fame. And you most certainly cannot deny their influence. And as for me, as I'm a loyal customer, like I said, I'm going to continue watching their show and scrolling through their posts and just appreciating the good things that they do and, just leave apart the bad things or the controversial things or the problematic things that don't really make sense in my life. And as for the people who don't agree with me or, the people who just like to hate, don't be fucking rude. If you get it, you get it. This was episode 7 of Thought World Celebrity.